Welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of he gains SSS rank farming system when a deadly virus spreads and he survives the apocalypse. You can watch the previous part on this channel. I put a link in the description below. Let's continue the story. While traveling on the road, Chan Nan sustained injuries and was bleeding. He confessed to Tien Ran that he had made a grave error by using the child as a tool for intimidation and pleaded for the torment to cease. Tien Ran offered Chan Nan two options: a quick and painless death or a flicker of hope, as he possessed the means to cure him and continue their conversation since he had ample time and resources. The decision now rested with Chan Nan. Chan Nan requested that Tien Ran proceed with his questions, prompting Tien Ran to inquire about the person who was orchestrating the events behind Chan Nan. Chan Nan disclosed that it was Liang Tien, the CEO of Tianren. As Tien Ran wiped the blood from his face, he realized that Tien was responsible for the exorbitant drug prices, which explained his relentless behavior. Tien Ran then probed further, asking if there were any additional individuals involved besides Liang Tien. Chan Nan asserted that Tien bore sole responsibility and had successfully kept it concealed, even from high-ranking executives within the company. Chan Nan had recently been at odds with the vice presidents, intending to leverage this situation to bolster his own authority and impress the headquarters while sidelining the other vice president at the southern city branch. Tien Ran came to the realization that Tannen Pharmaceutical, the company monopolizing Southern City, was merely a subsidiary of a larger conglomerate. Frustrated, Tien Ran slapped Chan Nan, urging him to wake up and questioning whether Tien had reported the matter to the headquarters. Chan Nan revealed that Tien had refrained from doing so because the other vice president had connections at the headquarters, and Tien feared the repercussions of escalating the issue to that level. Disclosing information to that particular vice president would jeopardize Tien's plans. Chan Nan was aware that the news had not yet spread widely, making the resolution of the matter relatively manageable. Subsequently, Chan Nan was informed by Tien Ran that one final element was required, and San was instructed to accompany him to Sangtiano. Later, in the office, Tianu answered a phone call from Chan Nan, who confirmed the completion of the mission. However, the target insisted on meeting Tianu and an elderly man before divulging any information. Enraged, Tianu berated Chan Nan, deeming them utterly useless if they were unable to handle such a minor issue without his personal involvement. Chan Nan apologized and mentioned the tight-lipped nature of Tien Ran, highlighting the loss of several comrades during the process. Tianu agreed and directed Chan Nan to take Tien Ran to warehouse number 78, expressing his intention to join them shortly. However, Chan Nan abruptly ended the call before Tianu could finish his sentence, leading Tianu to hurl the phone onto the sofa in anger and vow to replace Chan Nan as soon as he reached the headquarters. Meanwhile, in the car, the person holding the phone disconnected the call. Xiao Tian expressed immense gratitude to Tien Ran. Nevertheless, Tien Ran informed Xiao Tian that his father, Nan, was merely an incidental acquaintance, advising him against becoming too sentimental. As they drove away, Xiao Tian cried and continuously apologized. A minute later, they arrived at the warehouse and entered. Chanu, who was holding old Nan, and questioned Xiao Tian about the absence of Chan Nan and the messenger. Xiao Tian explained that the messenger had been rendered unconscious and left in the car, while Chan Nan had a stomach ache and had gone to the restroom. Xiao Tian further conveyed Chan Nan's concerns. Chanu, growing impatient, instructed Xiao Tian to bring him and Chan Nan over first. He implied that Tien Ran hadn't struck hard enough and mentioned the presence of the old man, suggesting that if Tien Ran talked, he would set him free. However, the old man was crying and tried to prevent Tien Ran from speaking, as Tianu had no intention of letting any of them leave alive. This angered Chanu, who kicked the old man to the ground and shouted at him to be honest. This left Xiao Tian shaking with anger. Tianu asked Xiao Tian why he was staring and ordered him to bring Tien Ran over, while the men continued to kick the old man. Suddenly, someone stepped on Chanu's face and forcefully slammed him to the ground, surprising his men. Tien Ran pointed a gun at Tianu's face and mentioned the difficulty of climbing the wall. The men anxiously called their boss, but he told them not to move, and Tianu ordered them to stay back. Tianu asked how this person had arrived where Chan Nan was and whether Chan Nan had betrayed him. He challenged the person to touch him, but Tien Ran questioned how someone of his intelligence had become the head of Tianren and had invested all his skills in being a heartless jerk. Tien Ran pointed out that his loyal subordinate was right there, indicating Chan Nan, who was in Xiao Tian's custody. Tianu angrily called Tien Ran a little brat and threatened that if he touched him, he would have them kill the stubborn old man immediately. However, Tien Ran agreed, saying that killing him would be more cost-effective than harming unrelated people. Xiao Tian shouted at Tien Ran to save Chan Nan. Chanu then ordered his men to kill the old Nan and placed his finger on the gun trigger. However, Tien Ran suddenly shot the men near the old Nan, leaving Tianu asking his dying men if they were stupid. Tien Ran shot Tianu in the head, killing him instantly. A moment later, the old Nan thanked him for not holding him accountable for the foolish actions of his useless son and told him that he knew those apologies were futile, but he was still grateful to him. Meanwhile, the old Nan was apologizing to him, and he told the old Nan that he didn't support the guilt by association concept and hadn't done anything to harm him. However, the old Nan told him that he was also at fault as a father for not stopping Xiao Tian, making him guilty too. Tien Ran assured Chan Nan that he didn't need to keep apologizing and advised him to let go of the idea because he didn't deserve forgiveness. He also assured Xiao Tian that he wouldn't harm him because it was unnecessary. As for what would happen next, Xiao Tian interrupted him by swearing that they knew nothing about it and could trust them. He then asked how Tien Ran planned to handle the situation there. Tien Ran ordered Xiao Tian to gather the bodies together, to which Xiao Tian immediately agreed. He told them that he would bring the car in, prompting the old Nan to ask him what he was going to do. He responded by asking the old Nan what else they could do and answered that obviously, it was to eliminate all traces. Chan piled up the dead bodies and asked his father if Chan Ran was planning to burn the bodies. The old Nan, who was walking toward Chan Nan, replied that he thought so and that it was not easy to be exposed in the middle of nowhere. The old Nan dragged Chan Nan, but then Chan Nan grabbed a piece of broken glass and attempted to stab the old Nan. Luckily, the old Nan managed to dodge the piece of glass just in time. And it struck his knee instead. Chan Nan taunted the old Nan about his dodging skills, and Xiao Tian, who overheard their conversation, immediately turned back with concern. Chan Nan raised the glass shard and shouted that since he was on a dead-end road anyway, taking someone down with him before he died wasn't a bad deal. He swung the glass toward the old Nan, but Xiao Tian jumped in front of his father just in time and got pierced in the chest instead. The old Nan was shocked and screamed in agony for his son. Simultaneously, a truck collided with Chan Nan, pinning him to the wall. Chan Ran, who was driving the truck, got out and walked towards the old Nan, who was in distress. Xiao Tian called out to his father and admitted that he was useless, unable to be a good person, but he didn't have the courage to be a bad one either. He blamed himself for putting his father in such a dangerous situation due to his selfish desires. He believed he deserved it and was willing to give his life back to his father. Xiao Tian also asked his father to thank Han Han on his behalf and gave him something, possibly a candy, while wondering if the candies and food from that night were from Han Han because they seemed like something a child would enjoy. Xiao Tian closed his eyes and whispered to his father, asking him to thank Han Han once again because the candy was sweet. As Xiao Tian remained motionless, the old Nan cried in agony, but then he stood up, holding the glass shard that had pierced Xiao Tian's chest, and walked determinedly towards Chan Nan. The old Nan raised the glass shard and repeatedly struck Chan Nan with it. After this brutal act, they set fire to the entire abandoned building, including the bodies. Later, someone frantically called Ren Xiao and informed her of a major development. Ren Xiao asked about the situation and urged the caller not to panic but to explain slowly. However, the caller shouted that they had discovered information about Liang Tenu, revealing that Tenu was dead. Ren Xiao was so shocked that she spilled her coffee and immediately rushed to the investigation room. She asked the examiner if they had confirmed Tenu's identity. The examiner affirmed that, despite the heavily damaged state of the body, they had managed to extract DNA from the dental pulp and confirmed that the bodies were indeed Liang Tenu and Chan Nan. However, they couldn't find any data on the other bodies in the genetic database, and no one had been reported missing. Due to limited police resources, they couldn't conduct further investigations to confirm the identities of the deceased. Ren Xiao stated that the identities didn't matter and asked if it was a murder or an accident. The examiner explained that it was a murder because several victims had bullet fragments in their bodies, and the fire seemed to have been deliberately set using a car. Some of the bodies also showed signs of torture before death. Rena speculated that someone had offended a ruthless individual but wasn't sure if they were targeting Liang Tenu personally or Tamarin Corporation. She realized that if it was the former, she would celebrate with 2 bottles of red wine, but if it was the latter, they would be her enemies. Meanwhile, on the farm, someone purchased a remote detonation device and asked the old Nan if he was sure he wanted revenge. Old Nan responded firmly, saying that he was willing to sacrifice his own life. He placed the remote detonation device on the nape of Old N's neck, explaining that he had taken care of any potential evidence but couldn't guarantee that Tien wouldn't find any clues leading back to him. He reassured Old N that he had ensured the device wouldn't explode, so there was no need to worry. They then entered the farm, and Old Nan called out to Han, who was occupied with something. Old Nan couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that they had a robot dog inside the excavator, along with many hands and feet. He also noticed that even a young girl like Han wasn't scared, which made him question his sanity. Han responded in a panicked manner, claiming she was just playing a video game and hadn't caused any explosions, stating that he had witnessed everything and asked why she was lying. Han admitted that she was afraid her older brother would dislike her for being a violent child and wondered if he didn't want her anymore. He assured her that it was nonsense and insisted that her big brother could never stop loving her. She then confessed that she had caused someone's death, leaving Old Nan surprised and pondering if that was the reason. He reassured her that no matter what mistakes she made, he would always be by her side to face them together. He emphasized that she was his most important family member, gently holding her face and expressing his happiness that she knew how to protect herself. He encouraged her to be true to herself, promising to guide her so that she wouldn't be burdened. He also commended her for dealing with those who had evil intentions, saying that if they didn't harm others, they couldn't prevent them from causing harm. In response, Han proudly declared that she would protect her big brother from anyone who dared to bully him, even if it meant taking drastic measures. Old Nan playfully agreed, stating that he would do the same. This realization made Old Nan acknowledge that the world was rapidly changing, and he needed to adapt to it. Shortly after, he asked Han if she meant that she saw those people with a red color and that's why she wanted to harm them. Han nodded and explained that they had even knocked down the gate and interrupted her while she was watching cartoons. She also mentioned that she didn't like the color red because it appeared unsettling to her. He inquired if others also had colors associated with them, besides those people. Han confirmed that they did and described her brother's color as a relaxing blue, Xiao Hei's approachable green, and Xiao Tian's as red. She mentioned that Old Nan's color was gray with some green, and there were also passers-by she had seen before who were gray. He realized that people exhibiting the red color had something in common: they all harbored ill intentions toward Han. Panicking, he asked Han if she saw anything else around people, such as words or numbers, in addition to the different colors. He speculated that Han might also be a player. Han replied that she didn't see anything like that, and asked when she started seeing colors on people. She said it began about a week ago, leading him to realize that Han's ability emerged after the start of the destruction season. However, Han couldn't see the system, so she definitely wasn't a player. It was likely that her abilities evolved after consuming radiation-resistant vegetables. While he playfully pinched Han's cheek, she fell silent, knowing that her brother did this whenever he pondered a problem. She told him that his smile was quite unsettling. He explained that he was genuinely happy and that the crops redeemed by the food system didn't have the same side effects as the radiation-contaminated crops out in the world. However, the probability of mutation was higher with the redeemed crops. They had only been consuming radiation-resistant food for a few days, and their physical well-being had significantly improved. Han had developed the ability to sense other people's emotions, essentially becoming a human reconnaissance device. As he continued to pinch her cheek, Han felt a twinge of pain, fearing that her cheeks would swell. He explained that his digital ability was called the Eye of Truth, while Han's ability was known as the Eye of Good and Evil. He praised her for her useful ability and assured her that she would be able to help in the future. He instructed her that if she ever saw someone with a red color in the future, she should immediately inform him because she would be his strongest assistant. He patted her, filling her with pride, and then asked if she was hungry. Excitedly, she replied, yes. Shortly after, the food was ready, and as they sat at the table, he told Han that Old Nan would be living with them from now on and could help with farm work. Old Nan mentioned that he wasn't fully aware of the situation yet but would do whatever they said. Han exclaimed that it was great because she would have more time to watch cartoons. She also inquired about where Old Nan would live. Old Nan replied that he would build a thatched hut at the gate to live in and keep an eye on it. Curious about her brother Xiao Tian and when he would live with them, Han Han asked Old Nan. Old Nan broke down in sadness but managed to tell her that Xiao Tian had gone to another world to atone for his sins. Han Han cheerfully exclaimed that those who had harmed her big brother or Xiao He wouldn't live long. She vowed that she would have Dabai blow their heads off. Impressed by her cleverness, he told her to focus on eating. Old Nan thought it couldn't get any worse than it was at that moment, and his hands were already stained with blood. He believed that as long as he could help his son get revenge, he was willing to be Tian Ran's watchman. Meanwhile, in some houses, a man was smoking a cigar while watching a woman on television announce that it had been 15 days since the catastrophe, with a cumulative death toll of 38.6 million in Blue Star and 4.7 million in the Yunnan Federation. She mentioned that the federal government was actively transferring grain reserves and that soulless cultivation technology would be put into large-scale production. Someone turned off the television, and the man, referred to as the old man, addressed the man smoking the cigar as father, and asked what he could do for him. The old man inquired if he had read Reno's report. The man confirmed that he had seen it and learned that Tianu was dead. The old man informed the man that Tianu had been a significant earner and that the mutation process had now accelerated. The military police headquarters had captured a level 5 mutated beast in the mountains of the southern border. The head office researcher, Jingyan, questioned how a level 5 mutant beast had evolved when their current research level was only at level 3 or the result of artificial catalysis. The old man explained that in the deep forests with no human intervention, radioactive vegetation was abundant, and even the lowest level species cannibalized each other, intensifying the mutation process. He also noted that humanity's current technology was vulnerable to unknown natural evolution. The old man directed Jingyan to take over the laboratory, as Ren Xiao had discovered that Tianu's secret experiments involved intriguing technologies. He suggested combining these technologies with their current resources and extracting the virus as soon as possible. Jingyan responded with an affirmative yes. Meanwhile, in the company, Ren Xiao realized that the records prior to those 2 days appeared completely normal. It seemed that the cause of Tianu's death lay within those 2 days, but Tianu had deleted the surveillance records for that period, leaving no clues. Ren Xiao understood that dwelling on this issue would be fruitless and instead needed to decide on the location of the new research institute and welcome the new person in charge. Ren Xiao left her office and went outside, where a car pulled up in front of the building. Jingyan emerged from the car, and people welcomed him to the southern side. He introduced himself to Ren Xiao as Bayan, and she introduced herself to him as well. She asked about the man standing next to him, and he explained that it was his assistant. Jingyan mentioned that he had heard she had a rough location for the new research institute and asked if she could show it to him. She readily agreed, mentioning that she had selected a couple of places on the outskirts of the city, allowing him to choose one. Meanwhile, on the farm, Tian Ran opened the livestock section in the system and selected the fish option. He saw the various fish levels, the points required to purchase them, and the required levels. He clicked on the level 1 fish, and the system displayed level 1 salmon, blue and tuna, trout, mackerel, herring, sardines, and more. He marveled at the variety of fish, noting that the points required for different types of fish at the same level were the same. He focused on the blue and tuna, a rare pre-apocalyptic ingredient now available for 500 points. He asked Han Han if she would like to eat a lot of blue and tuna, and she excitedly inquired about its cost, describing it as the red fish that melts in their mouths. He confirmed that it was expensive but mentioned that they now had the means to afford it, and they could eat as much as they wanted. She was amazed and eagerly expressed her desire to eat it. Tian Ran put on his jacket, grabbed his shovel, and suggested they let Dabai operate the excavator to dig a fish pond together. Han Han enthusiastically agreed. A moment later, Tian Ran drew a circular line on the ground and instructed them to start digging there. Old Nan asked how old Xiao He was because it seemed significantly larger than before. Tian Ran replied that it couldn't be the case because Xiao He had already reached adulthood and wasn't supposed to grow anymore. Old Nan wondered if it could be the result of the farm's high-quality food causing weight gain. He recalled when he first arrived to help on the farm, remembering that Xiao He only reached up to his knees, but now it extended to his thighs. Upon hearing this, Tian Ran realized that Old Nan was correct. They spent every day together, and he hadn't noticed the changes in Xiao He's body shape. He feared that sudden changes in Xiao He's body might lead to a mutation similar to Xiao Bai. Since they disposed of all poisonous crops on the farm following Xiao by accident, he wondered if Xiao He might have evolved from consuming radiation-resistant crops like Han. Therefore, he decided to keep a close watch on Xiao He to prevent any further incidents. Suddenly, the system alerted Tian Ran about the presence of visitors, causing him to immediately look back, wondering who they were. The old man asked him what had happened, and the system identified the visitors as 2 men and 1 woman with a threat level of 8. Ren Xiao asked Jingyan if he truly needed to inspect the new location she had selected, which offered better equipment and improved security. Jingyan replied that the current location of the farm was excellent and adequately sized, and they could transfer the security and equipment after purchasing the farm. He expressed satisfaction with their current location. Ren Xiao agreed and instructed him to proceed as he wished. However, she found it challenging to communicate with him, noting that he hadn't even considered the carefully chosen locations she had suggested. She informed him that it had been a while since anyone had shown up, and she didn't believe they would show up this time. Nevertheless, he ordered Da Kui to continue knocking. Tian Ran asked the visitors about their intentions, and Jingyan inquired if he was the owner of the place because he had some business to discuss. Jingyan then asked if he could open the gate to enable a face-to-face conversation, but Tian Ran declined and urged them to speak where they were. He insisted that they should speak quickly as he was very busy. Jingyan acknowledged the chaotic situation outside, leaving Ren Xiao wondering about Tian Ran's attitude. She cleared her throat and introduced herself as the general manager of Tianran Company, Ren Xiao. She presented her card and stated that they wanted to purchase his farm, allowing him to name his price. Tian Ran couldn't believe that Tianran had already found his farm, while Ren Xiao encouraged him to name his price for supplies or anything else, assuring him that they would meet his request. She even offered a discounted place in a villa in the city center if he needed it. However, he replied that there was no need for it. Ren Xiao asked if he didn't want to hear the price, considering their reputation in the southern region. She suggested that he might change his mind after learning the offer, but he remained steadfast, expressing his love for living there and stating that not even a mountain of gold would change his mind. Suddenly, Da Kui slammed his hands on the gate forcefully, and the system warned Tian Ran that it detected a minor attack at the farm gate with an attack strength of 2, asking if he wanted to counterattack. He ordered the system not to attack, realizing that Da Kui's action had triggered the system warning with just 1 slam. Jingyan shouted at Da Kui, causing him to look back with concern. Then, Jingyan slapped Da Kui hard in the face, reminding him that he seemed to have forgotten what he was taught. He warned Da Kui that if he acted without permission again, he'd be sent back to the devil's capital. Da Kui apologized to Jingyan, admitting his mistake and swearing that he wouldn't do it again. Tian Ran smiled, finding Jingyan's response interesting. Jingyan told him not to take it to heart, explaining that his subordinate had acted out of ignorance. But Tian Ran suggested they ignore it and called Da Kui over. Confused, Da Kui walked toward him as instructed, and suddenly, Tian Ran punched Da Kui in the stomach, implanting the hummingbird guard inside him, causing Da Kui to kneel on the ground in pain. Tian Ran told Da Kui that he had punched his gate, so he punched his back, and now they were even. Then, he suggested that if there was nothing else, they should leave. Jingyan simply smiled, but then Jingyan snapped the paper with a number, apologizing for the inconvenience they had caused him. He handed the paper to Tian Ran, telling him that it was his phone number and that if he ever changed his mind, he could contact him at any time. Tian Ran looked at them in silence, which made Ren Xiao think he was rude and that he definitely wouldn't answer. However, he snatched the paper from Jingyan's hand, shocking Ren Xiao. She told herself not to look down on them as they left. Jingyan told Tian Ran that he would see him again. Tian Ran looked at the paper and didn't expect the people from Tianran to find his farm so quickly, wondering if they were actively searching for him or if it was just an accident. He threw the paper away, and the system showed him that it had retrieved Hummingbird Guard number 1. He saw Jingyan's truck driving away and he knew that there were only about 10 days left before the next construction season, and the output of the plantation area was stable. The digging of the aquatic area had also begun, but they still needed to develop a livestock area. Later, he finished preparing the food, and Han happily told him to try the sesame sauce she made because it was super delicious. He put his meat in the sauce and exclaimed that it was yummy, making Han proud of herself. She mentioned that in winter, they should eat mutton hot pot. He found it warm and fuzzy, and she sweetly agreed. Old Nan asked them if they were a little underdressed and mentioned that the current land could no longer be cultivated, so eating so extravagantly seemed a bit excessive. He told Old Nan that he must have been curious for a long time, but he couldn't tell him any more details. Old Nan said he understood and shouldn't have asked in the first place because he had his secrets. However, Tien Ran disagreed and told Old Nan that he just wanted him to be mentally prepared. He added that the food they had there was not ordinary and that long-term consumption of it would cause some changes in the body, like improved immunity, physical fitness, and even the possibility of developing unusual abilities. He looked forward to those changes. Old Nan asked him what it was and commented that it sounded like a science fiction movie. Tien Ran reminded Old Nan that he had said the apocalypse was just like a science fiction movie come true. He explained that if it wasn't for fossils, it would have been hard for mankind to imagine that the blue star was once home to those huge prehistoric beasts. Given that, having superpowers in this context didn't seem strange at all, it was more like an evolution. Old Nan admitted that he didn't understand what Tien Ran was talking about, and Tien Ran told him to just continue his dinner. Old Nan asked if someone had come today, and Tien Ran replied that they were from Tianren. This shocked Old Nan, who angrily snapped his chopstick. He asked if a useless old man like him could get stronger by eating the food from that farm. Tien Ran confidently replied, "Of course," and Old Nan sighed with relief, saying that he understood. After dinner, Tien Ran instructs everyone to rest early while he goes out to run some errands. He hops on his motorcycle, and the system notifies him of the location of the Hummingbird number 1. The target is in the Harmony Villa district. Meanwhile, in the villa, Ren Xiao informs Jingyan that it is her house and offers to let him stay there for the night. However, she promises to arrange a new place for him tomorrow. Jingyan expresses his gratitude and apologizes for the trouble. As the Hummingbird guard enters the villa, Ren Xiao informs him that he will stay downstairs and can choose from one of the 4 available rooms. She assures him that dinner will be delivered to his room. He thanks her, and as she walks upstairs, he suggests that she should also rest early. While walking up, Ren Xiao becomes annoyed by the presence of the hummingbird flying around her, questioning why mosquitoes would be present in such cold weather. After taking a refreshing shower, she wraps a towel around her hair and looks at herself in the mirror. She acknowledges her exhaustion from the long day but also recognizes her beauty and competence in her job. She playfully wonders if she should leave some space for others and lightly slaps her face during her skincare routine. However, the buzzing sound of the hummingbird irritates her again. Irritated, she walks toward the window, realizing that the sound resembles that of a beetle. Curious, she decides to open the window to see if it can fly out. Enjoying the refreshing air, she suddenly notices Tianu climbing up with a rope. They are both shocked to see each other, and before Ren Xiao can react, Tianu jumps into the room, further surprising her. He quickly covers her mouth, to prevent her from shouting for help, causing her to feel frustrated by the ineffectiveness of the bodyguards outside. She contemplates firing them and realizes that Tianu is incredibly strong, leaving her unable to move or fight back. Understanding that she needs to calm the situation, she signals her agreement with Tianu's demand for silence and warns him not to underestimate the speed of the bodyguards outside, as his knife might not be faster. Once he releases his grip, Ren Xiao informs him that there is money, jewelry, and gold in the bedside cabinet, assuring him he can take it all as long as he doesn't harm her. She promises not to involve the police. Tianu acknowledges her cooperation, but surprises her by revealing that he is not there to rob her. Astonished, she questions if he is a pervert, psychologically disturbed, or involved in pornography. She also warns him that she has AIDS, implying that he would be at risk if he touched her. She is about to question the relevance of such a thought when he covers her mouth and tells her to stop talking. He then asks her if she sent someone to kill Tianu and why it took her so long to uncover the murderer, making her wonder if it was not a simple robbery. He removes his hand from her mouth, and she asks if he is one of Tianu's men, considering that all of Tianu's confidants are deceased. She wonders where this person could have come from. In response, he explains that Tianu did him a great favor but died under mysterious circumstances. He seeks revenge for Tianu's death. Learning that she is currently investigating the cause of Tianu's demise, he asks her to share any information she has, as he wants to take a look. She realizes that he is there to voice his accusations and informs him that she and the police are investigating Tianu's death. However, the clues are scarce, and it is challenging to identify the true culprit in such a short time frame. He suggests that since she assumed Tianu's position after his death, she could be a suspect. She argues that he has no evidence, and considering Tianu's numerous enemies, it is only natural for someone to take advantage of the chaos and kill him. She adds that Chu's death was also tragic, likely a revenge killing, and she had no personal grudge against Tianu, making it unlikely for her to murder him for the general manager position. He acknowledges that she is essentially correct and realizes she is not foolish. However, he expresses disbelief that they have no suspects. She explains that Tianu destroyed all documents and surveillance related to the recent conspiracy, making it difficult to identify suspects. She asks him how she is supposed to pinpoint a suspect when she doesn't even know who Tianu was interacting with before his death, mentioning her own struggles in that regard. He is relieved that Tianu wanted to keep everything to himself and left no clues. Suddenly, they hear footsteps approaching, and someone asks Ren Xiao what is happening, urging her to open the door. In the midst of the commotion, he attacks her neck while Da Kui tries to open the door. Ren Xiao's housemate informs Da Kui that the alarm system has been triggered, indicating that something has happened, and pleads with Da Kui to save Ren Xiao. Da Kui manages to break the door and rushes inside with the housemate. They find Ren Xiao collapsed on the ground, and the housemate holds her, tearfully asking what is wrong. Meanwhile, Da Kui runs straight to the window and shouts for MD, instructing him not to let the man escape. However, by the time he reaches the ground, he lands safely, leaving Da astonished that the door was breached by the scar-faced monster. Someone comments that breaking into a girl's bedroom in the middle of the night is quite rude. When he turns around, he sees Jingyan standing behind him. He questions how Jingyan found him when he left no trace behind. Jingyan argued that he noticed the gravity-sensing device on the window and asked Da Kui to block the door. He deduced that if the intruder wanted to avoid a direct confrontation, they would surely jump out of the window as an escape route. He fell silent, realizing that Jingyan was exceptionally smart. He swiftly ran toward Jingyan, wondering if this seemingly weaker person could stop him. He attempted to punch Jingyan, but Jingyan raised his knee, blocking Jingyan's fist with his knee, surprising him. Jingyan then leapt away from him. Jingyan's knee was slightly injured, and Jingyan remarked that it was interesting because the bones of the arm were nothing compared to the knee. According to Jingyan's calculations, his forearm's ulna and radius should be fractured from the frontal impact force of 700 kg, and his carpal joints should be crushed and dislocated due to their inability to withstand that force. However, Jingyan showed no signs of injury. Jingyan asked if he had ever practiced martial arts, noting that he didn't see him using any special techniques. Jingyan asked for an answer because he was confused. He warned Jingyan that he wasn't going anywhere tonight, leaving shocked, his hand shaking in pain. He looked at Jingyan in silence, wondering if Jingyan had ever practiced martial arts because he couldn't believe Jingyan had actually stopped his punch. He knew that even though his current body's capabilities were beyond those of a normal human, it was still troublesome to be entangled with someone who could fight. Suddenly, they heard someone saying that there were sounds coming from their direction, prompting them to investigate. Apologized to Jingyan, saying he didn't have time to play with him and threatened that the next time they met, he'd beat him to death. However, he was surprised when Jingyan leapt toward him, ready to attack. Jingyan's eyes were then hit with sand, causing Jingyan to close his eyes in pain and cough on the ground. This gave chance to run away. While running, told Jingyan that he was leaving and advised him to go back and wash his eyes. Jingyan turned around, shouting that despicable, but his damaged eyes prevented him from seeing Jingyan properly. As he bid farewell, he landed outside the villa. The bodyguards rushed toward Jingyan, who was still coughing. They asked if he was okay, and Jingyan tried to stand up, thinking that Tian Ran was very smart and in perfect physical condition, almost beyond human limits, which made him excellent material. In his mind, Jingyan told Tian Ran to wait because he would find him. Jingyan told the bodyguards that he was fine and just needed to wash his eyes. When asked if they should go after the man, Jingyan told them not to because he was very fast and they wouldn't be able to catch him. He then asked about Ren Xiao's condition and ordered them to check on her. The next morning, he checked on Ren Xiao's condition and told the maid that it wasn't serious since the intruder had only knocked her out. He instructed her to take the pills from the medicine cabinet, with the dosage already written on them. The maid suggested calling the police, but he declined, citing the chaotic situation in the southern side and the absence of stolen property. He didn't want to cause trouble for their comrades in the army and police force. The maid agreed and expressed gratitude for his assistance. Suddenly, Dakui appeared and informed Jingyan that there was bad news. He had checked his room and found that a hard drive was missing. He inquired of Dakui whether it was the gray hard drive, which had been connected to his computer. Dakui confirmed that it was indeed the same hard drive. Unbeknownst to them, Tien Ran had taken it with him the previous night and brought it back home. Meanwhile, on the farm, Tien Ran contemplated disconnecting the network cable to avoid any issues and to see what the Tianan company intended to do. He plugged the hard drive into his laptop and noticed a file titled Experiment Notes, which made him wonder if Jingyan was a researcher. As he opened the folder and read its contents, he discovered that despite numerous creatures perishing, Jingyan firmly believed that the world had become a better place than before. It became evident to Tien Ran that the document was not confidential and originated from Tianran. He continued reading other notes, which stated that radioactive foods that caused drastic changes in limbs and body shapes were not inherently catastrophic. They brought about more than just death and deformity, they brought evolution. Another note suggested that they had merely taken the wrong path of evolution, resulting in premature deaths. Jingyan was determined to find the right path, even at the cost of human life, in order to lead humanity into the next civilization. In that future, humans would not be separated due to terminal illnesses, premature births due to congenital anomalies, or considered liabilities due to a lack of strength. They would possess the strength to rival tigers, leopards, and even gods, living up to 300 years. Regardless of the outcome, death or supreme glory would await them at the end of the road. Back at the villa, Dakui informed Jingyan that they had yet to find any leads. Jingyan speculated that the other party may have employed some means or had not yet examined the contents of the hard drive. He mentioned that the mother disk was not receiving any signals from the daughter disk. Dakui questioned if the information was crucial, frustrating Jingyan. Jingyan told Dakui to forget about it, stating that the hard drive mainly contained old data that would be difficult for outsiders to comprehend. However, Jingyan knew that if those individuals were to come across his notes, they might deduce that he had come to the southern side for something real. Dakui remarked that it was too coincidental that they were attacked upon their arrival and asked if it could be the work of Number 7. Jingyan responded that if Number 7 truly intended to act against them, they would not have dispatched such an inexperienced person. That individual possessed remarkable physical fitness but lacked refined skills. On the other hand, Tien Ran read Jingyan's notes, which mentioned that darkness lay ahead, with an abyss behind him, leaving no possibility of turning back. The notes were dated November 21, 2025, according to the Yanwang calendar and attributed to Jingyan. This realization made Tien Ran contemplate whether human experiments had already begun. The following day, Han affectionately referred to Tien Ran as Big Brother, while admiring Level 1 Bama Yong Pig Cub, Level 1 Wiser Rabbit Cub, and Level 1 Kingu and Chicken Cub. She asked where he had obtained all these adorable little creatures. Tien Ran pondered his response, knowing that a complicated explanation might not be easily understood by Han. While Han showered affection on the bunny, Xiaohei couldn't help but feel jealous. He told her that he possessed a hidden treasure called the Doran Treasure, which allowed him to retrieve anything he desired. Excitedly, Han asked if it was true, acknowledging him as her big brother. He made it clear that it was a secret between them, and she couldn't share it with anyone else. Han immediately agreed, demonstrating her quick understanding. However, Xiaohei noticed that the bunny was covered in crayons and advised Han not to play with the precious food. He urged her to return it to the shed promptly. Han was shocked to learn that it was meant for consumption and tearfully expressed that it was too cute to eat. She wanted to keep it since it was still so small. Xiaohei countered by suggesting that he could cook spicy rabbit meat with it. Witnessing Han reaction, he proceeded to describe various dishes like pork chopped rice, chicken pot, pork bacon burger, spicy rabbit pot, chicken rice, grilled chicken leg, Saudi diced rabbit with pickled pepper and rice, and ginger rabbit. This overwhelmed Han, freezing her in place. He then informed her that if she didn't want to cook the rabbit, she would have to become a vegetarian. Frowning, Han tried to disagree. He playfully told her to appreciate the hard-earned food and eat it without leaving a single bite. He emphasized that it was the greatest respect for food and that building a relationship with it could be rewarding. After a brief moment of contemplation, Han ultimately gave him the rabbit, pledging to eat every bit of it. Suddenly, the system congratulated Shay on the rare albino corn produced on his plantation. He was advised to harvest it promptly, leaving him curious about its properties. Instructing Han to go play, he headed to the cornfield where he discovered the rare item, level 2 albino corn. The description revealed that it was an extremely rare mutated product with a probability of 1 in 100,000. When consumed, it induced a state of rage, increasing strength, speed, and reflexes by tenfold for 30 seconds. Amazed by its potential, picked it up, likening it to Popeye's spinach. He wondered if it was the only one and contemplated searching for more rare products on his farm. However, upon inspection, he found nothing else. Realizing that finding such rare items required luck, he acknowledged that intensive farming might be necessary to increase his chances. Nevertheless, he reminded himself to focus on farming honestly and not get too carried away with the idea of rare products, as his primary goal was to accumulate points. Rare items were merely an added bonus. Meanwhile, in Ren Xiao's house, she was in her bedroom, engrossed in watching the CCTV footage from the previous night. Filled with anger, she cursed Tian Ran as a despicable bastard and vowed to dig him up and cut him into pieces. She expressed her frustration towards the security guards, calling them a bunch of idiots, as they failed to catch a single thief despite their numbers. The military and police were unable to spare additional manpower for the investigation, leaving Ren Xiao to realize that she couldn't rely on official means to uncover the identity of the person responsible. Reflecting on the hair she found in a plastic bag, she concluded that it didn't belong to her since it was too light. She believed it must have come from the man who attacked her that night. Trying to push thoughts of the assailant out of her mind, she reaffirmed her determination to apprehend him. Leaving her room, she approached Jingyan, who was sitting on the sofa, and informed him that she needed to talk. Jingyan inquired about her well-being, and she thanked him for the effective massage technique he had taught her, which alleviated her pain. Ren Xiao then revealed that she had already chosen a location for his research institute. It was a former factory near the farm, which had closed down and been sold to them at a low price due to unforeseen circumstances. The location was secluded and met Jingyan's requirements perfectly. Apologizing for the trouble, Jingyan sensed that there was more to her visit. Ren Xiao admitted that the matter was somewhat embarrassing, but she believed that Jingyan, being an expert in biological research, could assist her in conducting a DNA analysis to find a match for the hair she discovered. Jingyan explained the challenges involved in comparing DNA samples from the entire southern side of the area, likening it to finding a needle in a haystack. Moreover, the process would be time-consuming, considering the nearly 100,000 copies to be examined. He questioned the importance of this person to Ren Xiao, to which she awkwardly responded that it wasn't of great significance, she simply wanted to identify the intruder who attacked her. Recognizing the difficulty of the task, Ren Xiao suggested giving up on the idea. However, Jingyan was taken aback by her statement and vehemently declared that it wasn't difficult at all. Excitedly, he offered his help in the matter, leaving Ren Xiao perplexed but grateful. Later, in the laboratory, the system indicated that the reagent injection solution had been prepared. After administering the reagent to the experimental subject, the system observed a significant thickening of muscle fibers and a 1,000-fold increase in cellular activity. As the subject's appearance slowly changed, compound eyes emerged, indicating contamination of the subject's genes by other organisms. Breaking free from its restraints, the experimental subject entered a violent state, prompting a warning from the system. The subject relentlessly struck the glass, causing it to shatter, as the system indicated the failure of the B34 virus experiment. Immediate destruction protocols were activated, resulting in the subject's immediate termination. Meanwhile, in Ren Xiao's house, Jingyan observed several official individuals walking around, with a child named Jingming in the center. The child questioned Jingming about leaving his pathetic little brother alone. Jingming dismissed the claim, stating that the child was not his little brother but merely a bastard. While Jingyan stood apart from the group, Jingming suggested teasing him to the other kids, and they agreed. Shortly after, the kids were playfully drowning Jingyan in the fountain, laughing and encouraging each other to hold him tightly and make him drink until he was full, emphasizing his status as a disgraceful bastard. Jingming cautioned the kids not to leave any visible marks on V, reminding them that despite being a bastard, Jingyan carried the family name and had to live up to their father's expectations. The kids responded with laughter, acknowledging their understanding. In the midst of Jingyan's painful coughing, Jingyan pleaded with his older brother Jingming to let him go, but the child mockingly informed Jingming that Jingyan had even referred to him as his brother. This angered Jingming, who called Jingyan a filthy bastard. Startled, Jingyan woke up in a sweat, immediately sitting up and shouting for them not to hurt him. He placed his hand on his head in frustration, catching his breath. Looking at the injection, he remarked to Jingming that V-shaped viruses had become more stable nowadays. He expressed his confidence that once he could create the perfect mutant, he wouldn't be far from surpassing Jingming. Meanwhile, in the news, a reporter announced that it had been 19 days since the world changed. Reporters relayed that a large number of mutated livestock carcasses of unknown origin had been discovered in Nakai town, surpassing the authorities' capacity. The Epidemic Prevention Department had already disposed of the remains. Inquired why Han wasn't watching cartoons and if she had started following the news. Han replied that she didn't want to be treated like a child all the time and had been keeping up with the news, as she couldn't rely on him to protect her forever. He acknowledged that she could sense people's evil intentions, which had already been helpful to him. However, she expressed her desire to grow up quickly and assist him more, especially with the increasing strength of Xiaohe. Noting that he had been observing Xiaohe for a while and it hadn't shown signs of going berserk. Any changes in its body shape were likely due to its evolution through anti-radiation products, which put him at ease. He informed Han that he and her uncle Nan would continue digging the pond, and she should find snacks for herself when she got hungry. An hour later, Han lay on Xiaohe, sulking that her big brother had been right because she was feeling a little hungry. She then noticed something on the table, arousing her curiosity. Upon opening it, she found the level 4 divine gain seeds, which appeared as glowing nuts to her and looked delicious. She showed them to Xiaohe, mentioning that there were two, one for each of them. She fed one to Xiaohe but spat out her own because it tasted bitter. While still holding Xiaohe's mouth, she exclaimed that the nut was too hard and she needed to rinse her mouth. However, Xiaohe swallowed it whole, leaving her surprised. Shortly after, Xiaohe began to feel drowsy and closed its eyes. Suddenly, the inside of the house was destroyed, and a dog's continuous barking caught Nan's attention. Curious, Nan went to investigate the source of the sound and followed a trail of blood, leading him to a peculiar sight. Xiaohe looked back at Nan with a menacing glare, shocking him. Without warning, Xiaohe lunged at Nan, opening its mouth to attack him. Nan managed to dodge just in time, dropping his flashlight in the process. Nan turned around to see what had attacked him and realized it was Xiaohe. As he observed the creature, he noticed that Xiaohe had transformed into a wolf-like form, making him wonder if it was due to mutation. However, he also realized that Xiaohe seemed different from other mutant animals and showed no further signs of aggression. Determined to calm Xiaohe down, Nan tried to approach it while asking if it was hungry and promising to get it food. However, Xiaohe softly barked at him as a warning, leaving Nan stunned. Xiaohe then jumped out of the window, surprising Nan, who called out for it repeatedly. Xiaohe paused for a moment and then leapt over the fence effortlessly. Nan couldn't believe that Xiaohe had climbed such a high fence with ease. Tian ran towards Nan and asked what had happened. Nan explained that Xiaohe had suddenly gone crazy and ran outside for unknown reasons. He mentioned that Xiaohe didn't behave like the other mutant animals because it seemed to recognize him, which surprised him. Just then, Han approached them and informed them that Xiaohe was missing because it wasn't by her bed when she woke up. Concerned, Tian Ran asked why she was outside and told her not to worry, assuring her that Xiaohe would likely return after running around for a while. He suggested she go back to sleep. However, Han insisted that Xiaohe never left her side while she slept and asked Nan what he meant by going crazy. Tian Ran questioned why she had come there without wearing shoes, and Han jumped at him, explaining that she was worried about Xiaohe. She asked what would happen if Xiaohe became like Xiaobai. Tian Ran advised her not to overthink and inquired if Xiaohe had eaten anything special recently. Han confidently replied that they had only eaten farm food from Nan's box, which contained glowing nuts in the afternoon. Tian Ran wondered if it could be the level 4 divine gain seeds. He realized that Xiaohe must have evolved, but he questioned why it had gone crazy and if consuming the level 4 grain seeds had the side effect of causing the creatures to lose control. He made multiple attempts to contact the system for answers, but it remained unresponsive. Frustrated, he informed Han that he would go and retrieve Xiaohe, assuring her that she should go back to bed and not worry. Han insisted that he must bring Xiaohe back and he reassured her that he would definitely retrieve their family member. Meanwhile, Xiaohe was running outside at high speed, feeling hot and craving fresh meat. However, It knew it couldn't harm humans as it wanted to return to its young master. Unbeknownst to Xiao He, someone hiding behind a tree observed it and recognized it as a sacred animal, possibly the one mentioned in the oracle. The person believed that bringing back Xiao He would please the gods. In another part of the forest, a patrol-level surveillance guard reported that Xiao He couldn't be found, indicating that it had left the area. Realizing the urgency of the situation, he knew he had to retrieve Xiao He quickly before the military police discovered it, which would likely result in its death. Suddenly, he sensed someone behind him and turned around to inquire about the person's identity. It was an old woman who asked if he was searching for a black wolf dog and whether it was his. He found the woman strange but asked her if she had seen which way Xiao He went. The old woman responded by asking if he knew the truth behind the apocalypse. He dismissed her question and requested that she simply tell him where his dog had gone, as he had no interest in anything else. However, the old woman became agitated and shouted that the disasters were a punishment for humanity's evil deeds and that they would continue until the human race was wiped out. She urged him to join their self-help society, make a sincere confession to God, and have a chance of survival. He considered the old woman's words to be a new missionary scam and asked if there were any conditions for joining their society. The old woman explained that membership levels had different fees ranging from 3 to 300,000, with higher levels offering closer proximity to God and a greater chance of salvation. As the master of the sacred animal, he could simply bring Xiao He to join the club. He brushed off her claims, suggesting that she should learn more about brainwashing and deception before attempting to fool people. The old woman became angry and accused him of disrespecting God. He apologized and stated that he didn't have time to engage in games with her. He asked if salvation could be achieved through piety and then drove away, asserting that he would be the one to save himself. The old woman warned him that those who didn't believe in God would suffer eternal damnation in hell, being the lowest of the low like maggots. He remembered a moment when he had stopped on the side of the road to smoke and heard barking nearby. Investigating the sound, he discovered a dead dog with its own blood and a surviving puppy. He assumed the mother dog had been dead for several days, likely hit by a car while crossing the road. He gazed at the wounded creature for a moment and reassured it that there were many others who had lost their parents, urging it to come home with him. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Xiao He growled while biting someone's leg, drawing the attention of a group of men. One of the men shouted to his comrade, suggesting that they provoke Xiao since it wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Just then, Jingyan emerged from a nearby building and questioned the men about how the mutated beast had managed to enter. One of the men explained that Xiao had become addicted to smoking and had gone into the woods to indulge in the habit. When he flicked his cigarette butt at the creature, it became aggressive and attacked him. Jingyan expressed his disbelief at their actions, and the man clarified that the beast had been hiding in the bushes, unseen by Xiao. They had already contacted the military police to handle the situation. Jingyan confirmed that low-level mutant beasts tend to wander aimlessly, following the heat of living creatures, implying that Xiao He must be a high-level mutant beast. Furthermore, it had only bitten the security guard's leg without killing him, suggesting that it understood the danger of guns and was using the guard as a shield. Jingyan realized that capturing and studying Xiao He could potentially provide insights into the instability of the V-virus, making it the perfect mutant beast he had been searching for. He ordered the men to gather as many people as possible, equipped with tranquilizer guns and sedatives, emphasizing the importance of capturing the creature alive before the military police arrived. One of the men handed Jingyan a tranquilizer gun, and he instructed them to aim for the limbs and be cautious. He aimed his gun and fired at Xiao He, but the creature noticed in time and evaded the shot. They continued shooting tranquilizers at Xiao He, managing to graze it, causing the creature to retaliate and attack one of the men in pain. Frustrated, Jingyan reloaded his gun and heard someone shout that Xiao He was attempting to escape. Xiao He leapt away, and Jingyan ordered the men to pursue it. In another part of the forest, Hummingbird number 2 reported to Chan Ran that they had found large dog paw prints 700 meters southeast. Chan Ran swiftly headed there on his motorcycle and was shocked to discover the paw prints stained with fresh blood. He deduced that they likely belonged to Xiao He and wondered what had caused the severe injuries. Meanwhile, 3 cars chased after Xiao He. Jingyan, inside one of the cars, realized that no ordinary mutated animal could move at such a remarkable speed, fueling his excitement. He observed Xiao He's muscular physique as it ran and acknowledged its beauty. Determined to capture it, Tian ran. he received a report from Hummingbird that they had located the target. He commanded Hummingbird to zoom in on the trackers' faces, recognizing the presence of the tech nerd once again. This sparked his curiosity about the nerd's intentions and whether he sought to capture Xiaohei for research purposes. He quickly rummaged through his inventory and grabbed the albino corn, determined to ensure that those individuals wouldn't escape the consequences. At the same time, Jingyan and his men relentlessly shot at Xiaohei while chasing it. Jingyan gave orders for cars 2 and 3 to surround Xiaohei from both sides and drive it towards the nearby old factory, hoping to corner it. Xiaohei, however, noticed their tactics and leapt higher, skillfully evading their attacks. It landed on one of the cars, using its claws to grab the men inside and biting one of them. The third car reported to Jingyan that the second car had been taken down. One of the men fired his gun at Xiaohei, referring to it as a bloody beast. The tranquilizer flew towards Xiaohei, momentarily stunning it. But just as the tranquilizer was about to reach its target, a powerful figure intervened, snatching the tranquilizers and revealing the effects of consuming the albino corn. The person activated a frenzy state, with the remaining effect time displayed as 26 seconds. In car number 1, where Jingyan was located, he wondered about the source of the white light while Xiaohei seemed to recognize it as its master. Suddenly, Tian Ran vanished with incredible speed, swiftly attacking the enemy as the remaining effect time decreased from 20 seconds to 12 seconds. Jingyan attempted to shoot Tian Ran, questioning what it was, but he was stunned to see the white light in front of him. He attempted to punch Tian Ran, but the attack was blocked in time, causing Jingyan to cough up blood. Eventually, the remaining effect time reached 2 seconds, leaving the person feeling weak. Realizing the negative side effects, Tian Ran jumped away. Jingyan, relieved that he had managed to block the attack, Jingyan pointed his gun at him, considering him too dangerous and contemplating eliminating him. However, Xiaohei intervened, biting Jingyan in the neck just as he was about to pull the trigger. The bullet hit Tian Ran, but only in the shoulder. Xiaohei carried Tian Ran on its back while he regained consciousness. As Xiaohei caught its breath in pain, Tian Ran called its name in worry. Attempting to approach Xiaohei, Tian Ran was shocked to see the creature shaking uncontrollably and howling. In a panic, he called the system for answers, desperately trying to understand the situation while witnessing Xiaohei's suffering. Unbeknownst to him, inside Xiaohei's body, the creature's genes had broken due to drinking Jingyan's blood, causing the divine gene to slowly shatter into pieces and release a new gene within Xiaohei's body. A massive, glowing web emerged from Xiaohei, wrapping around it completely. Tian Ran looked on in panic, realizing the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Jingyan lay injured while the doctor expressed apologies for the grim outlook. Jingyan had suffered a severe blow to the head, resulting in a concussion of his pituitary gland and squeezing of the blood vessels in his brain. The fatal wound on his neck added to the critical condition, making it truly miraculous that he had survived this far. The man apologizes to Ren Xiao and informs her that despite their best efforts, Jingyan's chances of survival are very slim. Ren Xiao tells the man not to explain further, stating that it is their duty as guards to protect the researcher's safety at all costs. Jingyan is currently lying on a hospital bed, and his condition is critical and uncertain. The man apologizes to Ren Xiao once again and explains that Jingyan was extremely determined to capture the mutant animal, which prompted him to rush ahead with the advanced team. By the time they arrived, the advanced team had already suffered heavy casualties, with only Da Kui surviving. Ren Xiao interrupts the man, stating that she doesn't want to hear any excuses and asks if he saw the attacker's appearance. The man responds negatively, explaining that it was a fast-moving white light. Ren Xiao angrily rebukes the man, accusing him of fabricating a story and trying to deceive them. The man swears that he is telling the truth and insists he is not lying, but Ren Xiao remains infuriated, reminding him that they have paid a significant amount of money and she is not there to tolerate their evading of responsibilities. Suddenly, the doctor informs Ren Xiao that Jingyan's heart rate is plummeting and there is another hematoma in his brain. She shouts at the doctor to save Jingyan immediately, but the doctor explains that it is futile because Jingyan cannot be saved. The doctor suggests that they listen to Jingyan's final words, leaving everyone stunned. In response, the doctor orders the nurses to administer a shot of adrenaline to Jingyan, which successfully revives him. Jingyan immediately calls Da Kui, who promptly responds. Jingyan instructs Da Kui to inject him with the versus-shaped virus, shocking Da Kui, who expresses disagreement. Jingyan explains to Da Kui that there have been no successful human cases yet, but he is willing to take the Risk because he does not want to lose. Dakui agrees, and the doctor informs them that he will inject 5 milliliters of the versus-shaped virus into Jingyan, while also preparing restraints and a bomb neck collar. The doctor asks Jingyan if he wants him to call the family back, but Jingyan declines, stating that they are merely people who share the same blood and not his true home. Jingyan urges them to proceed, and the doctor administers the versus-shaped virus, causing Jingyan to experience uncontrollable shaking and excruciating pain as the virus alters his DNA. Ren Xiao watches in horror, while Dakui closes his eyes. Meanwhile, in the forest, the web gradually disintegrates, surprising Tien Ran. He turns around and witnesses the web breaking into pieces, and to his astonishment, Xiaohei emerges from it. Xiaohei walks out of the web, now resembling a human with hands and feet, leaving Tien Ran stunned. He momentarily questions if it is indeed Xiaohei, but Xiaohei stares at him and grips his injured shoulder, causing Tien Ran to cry out in pain. The man in the farmhouse advises Han Han to go back to sleep, reassuring her that Xiaohei couldn't have gone too far, and Tien Ran would be back soon. Nan, shivering in the cold, expresses concern about catching a cold in such chilly weather. Han Han responds that she is not cold and is in good health, deciding to wait for her brother there. Nan starts to object, but Han Han tells him not to hold her hand if he doesn't believe she's warm. Nan takes her hand and acknowledges that she is indeed warm. They agree to wait for Tien Ran together, with Nan suggesting Han Han sit with him as his baby warmer, to which she agrees. Hours later, as the sun slowly rises, Han Han wakes up due to the light and exclaims, "Big brother," causing Nan to wake up as well. Han Han rushes to the gate, calling out to Tien Ran and asking if he found Xiaohei. However, she stops in amazement and worry when she sees Tien Ran holding onto a huge dog, Xiaohei, who has just evolved but still struggles to control his strength. Tien Ran's wounds reopen, and he sustains a fracture. Han Han asks her brother what is wrong with him, observing his condition. Later, Han Han excitedly dresses up Xiaohei with the help of the old Nan. She mentions that Xiaohei has changed a lot and playfully requests to be lifted up. Xiaohei, still with his familiar blue color, lifts Han Han, realizing that his mischievous little mistress is still the same. The system displays Xiaohei's evolution type as atavistic, with an age of 3, a strength of 30, intelligence of 10, speed of 42, spirit of 10, hunger of 5, and an evaluation as a Czech wolf dog with human genes. It notes that he has undergone genetic evolution, and his data will improve significantly, with no upper limit mentioned. This revelation leads to the understanding that Xiaohei lost control previously due to the atavistic gene, causing him to go berserk and escape, as he didn't want to harm them. The integration with human genes likely occurred during the time Xiaohei bit Jingyan. Nan informs them that he brought the medicine box and jokingly asks if he should sterilize the knife to dig out the bullet from Tien Ran's shoulder. Tien Ran assures him and proceeds to dig out the bullet with the sterilized knife. He then retrieves ancient medicine-grade carrots, surprising Nan with their sudden appearance. Tien Ran consumes the carrot, prompting Nan to wonder if it could be a miraculous cure. Gradually, Tien Ran's skin comes alive, healing the bullet hole in his shoulder. His wound heals, broken bones mend, leaving only residual pain. Tien Ran explains that genetic cells in all living creatures constantly replicate and replace old cells, sustaining life. This process of replication and regeneration allows for healing and restoration. Most of the time, cells remain stable and replicate all elements of the old cell. However, under certain conditions, a new gene may suddenly appear, replacing the original gene, which is known as a mutant gene. Gene mutations can result in two outcomes. The first is beneficial development, like the cases of Han Han and Xiaohei, where their bodies acquire new and advantageous functions alongside their original functions. This process is referred to as evolution. The second outcome is detrimental development, seen in many mutated animals today. These animals possess tremendously strong limbs and great strength, but their genes have fatal flaws. Even if they are fortunate enough to regain their senses, their lifespan is short-lived, and their existence is merely a survival mechanism. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Jingyan wakes up and effortlessly breaks the chain holding his hand. The doctor exclaims that Jingyan is awake, and Jingyan can hardly believe that he survived. The doctor declares it a miracle since no human has ever retained consciousness after being injected with the V virus. The doctor informs Jingyan that his successful survival indicates that their experiment will progress to the next stage. However, Jingyan explains that it's not that simple. Although he survived, the V-shaped virus did not mutate him perfectly. His mutation is still a failure, as he possesses greater strength and speed than ordinary people, but his body structure has been altered for the worse. Furthermore, he reveals that he has a maximum of 7 days to live. If he fails to find the perfect mutated creature and obtain its DNA within 7 days, his demise is inevitable. Shortly after, Jingyan, who evolved due to the virus, adjusts his clothes when Dakui arrives and informs him that Detective Yuan from the Southern Side Military Police Bureau is present. Jingyan acknowledges this and Dakui questions whether it would be appropriate for them to investigate the intruder and alert the military. Jingyan explains that he is highly skilled in various forms of combat, including boxing, Muay Thai, grappling, and Sinew. He possesses a 65-kilogram Golden Dragon badge from the Federal Sinew Association, and his reflexes and physical fitness surpass those of an average adult by more than 2.8 times. In other words, he can already be considered one of the strongest individuals in the world. However, the person who attacked him cannot be considered human at all, as their power source is the same as that of the perfect mutant wolf dog. It is possible that this person is also a perfect mutant, or perhaps their perfect mutations originate from the same source, which would explain why they came to rescue the wolf dog. The attacker's movements remind Jingyan of someone else he encountered before. Dakui asks if he suspects that these two individuals are the same and whether it would be wise for them to know about their hard-earned research results. Jingyan asserts that he knows what he is doing, and the virus has not yet allowed him to achieve the state of perfect evolution. However, if the information could lead him to the perfect mutant, he is willing to take that risk, as time is running out. He then meets Detective Yuan, and as the lady turns to face him, he apologizes for keeping her waiting in hopes that his appearance hasn't scared her. She informed him that it wasn't the case, and when the senior police officer from the southern side questioned him about the military's interest, he hastily unbuttoned his shirt. While excusing himself to her, he explained that he was in a precarious state, as the bone spur would inevitably grow with his body's development. He emphasized that when his heart is pierced, it would lead to his demise, indicating that time was running out. In exchange for her assistance in finding the person, he showed her the hair and urged her to act sooner rather than later. Yaoan took a moment to consider before expressing that it was a pleasure working with him. Meanwhile, in their farmhouse, the system revealed to Tien Ran that he had acquired 19 level 4 divine level powerful seeds. Xiao and Han were peacefully sleeping as Tien Ran learned that the category of these seeds was cherry tomato, promoting genetic enhancement and preventing negative gene development. Tien Ran reflected on the potential of these seeds to usher in a new era for mankind, contemplating the idea of humans becoming gods. Despite the harsh planning conditions and expensive land upgrades, Tien Ran spent 95,000 points on 19 good land upgrade coupons, transforming his ordinary land into nutrient-rich soil. With the second wave of the destruction season approaching, Tien Ran strategically invested in growth agents and contemplated adding more agricultural robots to expedite the planting process. As he observed his robots working, he recognized the need to save points for upgrading his farm and maximizing crop yields before the impending disaster. Simultaneously, in the city, individuals in robes made their way toward a massive building. The old woman inquired about the possibility of meeting the Holy Lord in her humble human form. The man assured her that she only needed to convey what she had witnessed, and the Holy Lord would pass judgment. Despite not meeting the required number of believers, the old woman could still receive gifts as long as her information was accurate. Grateful and repeatedly expressing her joy, she acknowledged the Holy Lord's benevolence, believing it could sustain her family for another month in the midst of the apocalypse. As they entered the building and reached the center, the man reported to the Holy Lord that the pure sheep had sent a letter indicating the discovery of a new holy beast. The elevated figure, embodying the Holy Lord, gazes at them, and he instructs the subordinate to provide a detailed account. After the man respectfully shares all the information with the Holy Lord, the higher-ranking individual applauds, expressing approval that this revelation will enhance the Holy Lord's power further. The suited man extends congratulations to the Holy Lord for nurturing the new holy beast, and he informs the higher figure that the Holy Lord will soon complete his emergence. Subsequently, the suited man inquires if he can inspect the most recent addition. The higher man responds affirmatively, allowing the suited man to take them away, explaining that the Holy Lord has grown weary of the small treats. All that is required is to bring back the sacred beast and offer it as a sacrifice to the Holy Lord. Suddenly, a sound emanates from the vast, deep hole, and it appears something inside is about to speak. However, the higher man interjects, assuring that he is aware, and addresses it as Lord, expressing gratitude for its kindness. Nevertheless, it emits another hiss, insisting that it desires to consume wolf cubs.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more content. Feel free to leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts or suggestions. If you want to stay updated on all our latest uploads, click the notification bell icon. And hey, why not check out some of our other videos popping up on the screen right now? If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by liking, sharing, and subscribing. It really means a lot. Peace.